Hey guys, in this video we're going to do another Twilight editing session, so let's get into it. Alright, so what I've done so far is put these images through DNG converter. These were shot with the A7R4, so these are 60 megapixel images. The ARW files, the raw images, are a little over 60 megabytes each. So DNG converter will definitely help make it easier workflow on the editing side of things. So I ran them through DNG converter, I imported them, I applied the pre-HDR preset to the interior shots, and basically that's where we're at right now. And then I did HDR merge through them. So now we have our HDR merged images here at the bottom. I'll go ahead and add them to our quick collection. But I wanted to mention one thing, because we have our stacking, right? Auto stack by capture time set to 3 seconds. You can do it for longer. Some of them didn't stack because the Twilight photos, it's usually the brighter exposure, which takes a long time. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here you can see where we have a stack of 2 and we have a bright one right here by themselves. So if you really wanted to stack all 3 together for the Twilight photo, you can just hit shift, stack them together and just go to, or select both images, the 2 image stack and the one that was missing, and just select group into stack. Now I wasn't too concerned about that. A lot of times if we're including the super bright exposure on a Twilight photo, it doesn't look as Twilight, as dark. So I'm okay with the exposures that just stacked 2, since we're just going for that darker shot. I mean, there also is another option for Twilight shoots. You don't necessarily need to use all 3 exposures. You could potentially just edit the middle exposure as long as your timing is good and the lighting is good throughout. Just know that if you have a higher ISO rating, when you do dig into the highlights and shadows, you're likely going to introduce noise into your image. But yeah, there are some times where I really like how just that normal exposure turned out, and I'll just edit those. But today we're just going to do it our normal HDR method way. So, alright, so now we'll dive into our quick collection here. Hold on, we have some extra ones here. I must have selected these ones as well. Alright, so these are the HDR ones. You can tell by the file naming over here, and these were the first shots that I shot the home with. So first things first, we're gonna go through and we could apply presets if we wanted to. A lot of times for Twilights, I won't necessarily apply the presets that we have, because it's just, you know, they don't look like, you could have different presets, right? You could have a Twilight preset, but honestly, I'll just work through it manually, and you can see if you like certain looks to your editing processes, you can easily just create a new preset for yourself. But let's go through here and just eliminate the images that we don't like, that we don't want to edit. So let's go through here. All right, this one, I think I was a little high, lower the tripod. And let's see, these ones are all right. This center shot here. Then we went into the kitchen. We have a brighter and a darker shot here. I'll just take the brighter shot. Do we like all these kitchen shots? They're all right. We have 2 here. Let me take the second one, because I was a little in one of the frames. All right, so we got the shot looking back at the front door, the hallway, going to the master, and then we have the laundry room and garage. Then we have this shot from inside looking outside. Then we went outside, and let's see. All right, so these are all looking pretty good. You can tell the ones that didn't stack the last or that bright exposure, because it's a darker image, right? It didn't have that super bright one. So it's this one, And really, and this one right here, you'll just have to increase your exposure on the edit. All right, so all of these are still potentials to be delivered to the customer. We're likely not going to deliver all these. We'll see which ones at the end of the editing process, which ones we like the best. If we wanted to right now, we could rearrange them. I'll save the rearranging for last. All right, so let's just start with the top here. And we'll go into develop, and I'm just going to go profile straight auto. And that's a good place to start. It's just auto settings, straight, and it adjusted for the profile correction. Now this image looks very, very yellow, so it's a little too warm in my opinion. So we could either bring it down. That's probably more accurate as to how it looked there at the property. Also, let's see. I'm not a huge fan. I think I got a little bit too much of the neighboring house in that fire hydrant, so I'm going to crop in just a little bit. And we can move it. That looks alright, I think. Alright, that looks fine. Alright, now let's copy. Just make sure not to copy the crop, otherwise it's going to crop to the next photo. And this one you can see it's tilted a little bit down, and even with the auto it didn't do that. And this is kind of a demonstration of when we're shooting uphill. You know, sometimes you can see how this line isn't quite straight. You can come down here and use vertical and kind of push your image, you know, the way you wanted it. Obviously, you're gonna have to come in here and crop it, which we'll crop anyway. I think it looks better like that, center it up. I think that looks pretty good. If anything, there's still a little bit too much sky. Let's see. That looks pretty good, a little better. All right, let's do this next one here. Paste. That's pretty bright, a little bit brighter than the other ones. Let's reduce. And, you know, same thing. This one's not as bad off, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm just looking at it, want it to be pretty consistent. This is the wider shot, and the transform did a terrible job. Let's turn that off. All right, this is looking too cold in my opinion, so let's bring it back warmer. And then if we wanted the sky to kind of pop a little bit, we can increase the saturation in the blues. I think that's all right. It looks pretty similar to the other ones. All right, now here's one where we're kind of low. I should have had my tripod a little bit higher, but I didn't rearrange it, so I'm shooting up. You can see the lines on the house, how crooked they are. So let's do the manual transform down here, vertical, and now we can just look at those lines and get it. So that's why I say if you're gonna shoot up at a property, make sure to leave a buffer, so when you do crop it in, you're not cutting off the top of the house. Now that, I think I may have gone a little bit too far with the vertical. Let's bring it back. And done. Let's see how that looks. It actually looks crooked. Let's go to this and change the angle. All right, that might be better. Let's take a look. That looks pretty good. And yeah, it's pretty yellow. Let me just remove some of this yellowness on the house. Maybe bring in some green. All right, I'm not super impressed with these earlier in the day front shots, but I think the Twilight photos, when the customers order the Twilights, they're usually gonna use the Twilight photos as the main pictures. And I think we were kind of at a bad time. It was pretty close to twilight. You know, it was probably 15 minutes before sunset at that point in time on these photos. We did a few other products, but if you have time, I would say right when you get there, shoot the exterior so that it looks, you get that daytime look and then you get the twilight look. All right, so now we're on the inside. These are actually already looking pretty good. I actually like this photo as is, so let's keep going. This one's a little dark. Let's bring up the exposure. White balance looks pretty good. Maybe a little on the warm side. We'll bring that down a little bit. Copy, go to the next one. Now it's going to be a little bright. Bring it down. That looks pretty good. Moving on. This room is bright. And let's adjust the white balance. Now you can see the camera right here. It's not too distracting in the photo. Sometimes if you're looking at it, your eye just goes straight to the camera. But yeah, I don't know. We can just do a quick edit here. That actually looks better. It's not as distracting if you look at it. It's not like, oh, there's a camera right there. So I'm just gonna keep the Lightroom quick edit and set the white balance and bring it back up. That looks pretty good. Now let's do profile straight auto. We'll brighten up the bath and we'll set white balance on the toilet. Maybe a little bit warmer. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little brighter. And we'll go a little warmer. Just because we're trying to balance, we have outside light coming in, making it look bluer, and then we have tungsten lights on the inside. So I probably would prefer a little bit more on the warmer side than the picture having blue all over. Sometimes I'll just reduce the blues. So let's see here. So if we wanted to reduce the blues, let's click this on the saturation, click on the carpet where it's blue, and then just drag down a little bit or just reduce it a little bit. I wouldn't go extreme on that, but that looks pretty good. All right, we're not looking so bad. And I think this shot, I did two. They're both decent, I think. This one's more focused on the laundry room. I liked getting a little bit closer in the space, closer to the couch. Let me paste in here. So you could go either way. I like this one as well because it shows the bedroom, but I'm not going to deliver both of these. In this case, I'm going to stick with the wider one because I feel like it adds more value. It shows the flow to that room across the way. All right, now this one. Now this one we're kind of trying to show outside, and the outside looks very blue. So I'm going to bring up the white balance to kind of just bring out the window views a little bit better. Maybe even a little more, because I think this photo, it's more like, all right, you're sitting down to eat. What does it look like outside? All right, that looks pretty good. Now this is starting to look too yellow, so we can try to use the picker tool, or we can just manually reduce it. I think that looks pretty good, pretty accurate for what it was. Now we'll just paste those settings through this room that has the same kind of white balance. And I'll reduce the shadows with the darker appliances, so we'll keep going. All right, now we're back in this room. Let's start off a fresh one with the profile straight auto settings and just kind of adjust it from here. In this photo, we have multiple white balance. I would say it's a little bit too warm in here, so I'm going to bring that down. This looks pretty accurate now, but we have this distracting blue room because all it is just light coming from outside, and it's, you know, it's pretty distracting. So what I'm going to do is take the temperature brush and we're going to make it warmer over here in this room here. Also, the tint is a little bit green, so maybe I'm going to add some magenta color. Maybe we'll increase the exposure a little bit. I don't want to do too much. I just didn't want it super blue looking over here. That looks pretty good, not as distracting, so we'll go ahead and move on. We'll do profile straight auto. And let me get rid of these tools and go down. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's go into the master. Now this one's looking very blue. Let's warm it up a bit. And then I'll probably reduce the blues a little bit. We have a blue, like a dresser or whatever that is. So we don't want to reduce it too much or else it's going to really desaturate things in the room. I just didn't want that blue to look too distracting. All right, I think that looks all right. Let's move on. All right, now these lines look really off. Let me see. Let me turn this off. Now this is one where it'd be like vertical a little bit. You can see those lines, so I just try to line them up a little bit. That's a little better. And then we could crop in so we don't see the white. I think it's a little crooked too. Let's bring it this way. I don't know, kind of in between these two settings here. Let's crop it in a little bit. Let's see what we got. All right, that looks more straight to me. All right, I'm gonna paste in here. And then we're gonna increase the exposure. Maybe it needs to be a little cooler. All right, that looks about how it looked there. I'm gonna use the quick removal tool. I'm gonna try it. All right, I'm just blurring out the camera a little bit. And I usually will look away and look back. Does my eye get drawn to that spot? I don't think so, so I'm gonna keep going. All right, that looks pretty good. That looks good. That looks good. All right, now we're in the laundry room. Lighting's a little different. Let's bring down the white balance. Obviously, you could also set it on the washer dryer, but let me bring down the exposure a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. Now let's do profile straight auto in the garage. That looks good. Let's copy these settings. I guess I only did one shot in the garage. All right, now this is an inside shot. Let's do profile straight auto. This is an interior shot looking outside. It looks pretty good as is. It's pretty accurate. Now we could make it a little more interesting if we wanted to come over here into the oranges, bring up the oranges a little bit. We could also bring up the blue sky, or even grab the green bushes and bring up the greens. That actually looks pretty good to me. Let me copy this and see how it looks when we go outside. So we're outside. And let's turn this off. It actually doesn't look too bad. Maybe a little bit more, a little brighter. Maybe I'll bring the luminance of the blues down here in the sky. Not too much. All right, that looks all right. I think we took an excessive amount of pictures. That one's blurry. We took an excessive amount of photos outside. This one could be warmer. Let me bring it down. If we wanted it to be a little more vibrant, there's some mountains back here. Whoops, that's luminance. Saturation here. Saturate that mountain. All right, let's copy here. This one's blurry as well. You can see the autofocus. That's the thing with autofocus. You know, it actually locked onto this side wall right here. So anyways, and that's why I always grab at least 2 photos of every room, because you never know when that's gonna happen if you're shooting autofocus. Obviously, if you're comfortable enough with manual, shoot however you are most comfortable with. All right, that looks all right. Let me see this again. You see, this line up here is straight, and this not so much. I mean, if we try to move it, so like we can move it, so like a horizontal move like this. If we try to move it, does that top look weird? I don't know. It actually doesn't look too bad. Let's just crop it in so we don't see the white. Done. All right. I don't know if that looks better or worse. It looks about the same. That's the same thing, so I'm just gonna remove that. Let's paste here. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'm gonna bring down luminance in the sky, see if we can get some more detail. Luminance doesn't look so good. Let's try saturation of the blue. Whoops. You just click right here. There's just not a whole lot there. Same with these photos. You know, we could potentially do sky replacements on them. Let me just paste through. The edits, yeah, sky replacement definitely on that one. Let's try these ones here. Keep going. This one actually doesn't look too bad. Let me turn this off. Oh, it is off. Auto. There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right, let's paste our settings because I like how the look is, and then change it to auto, and then copy these so that we can straighten our shots. Now this one's kind of, I mean, we're looking at the landscape. It doesn't look that interesting. We could go crazy on the vibrance and saturation and see if we can make it more interesting, but if we did that, it's not going to match the other photos. So anyways, I'm gonna keep going. We'll likely go back and do sky replacements on at least 2 or 3 of those. All right, so we started here on the Twilight looking ones, profile straight auto. I think this is looking pretty good. Let me try to bring it up just a little bit brighter. I think it looks pretty good. We can bring a little more attention to the house. We can do exposure brush and just kind of brush on the house, just make it a little brighter. I think that looks pretty good. You could darken the sky if you wanted to. I kind of like this look, the natural looking. Let me go back, copy. We don't want to copy the brush, so yep, we got it unselected. Otherwise it's gonna brush that same spot in all of the photos. Now this one's looking darker. Let's bring up that exposure. Maybe this one, the sky, we could go to try to saturate the blue a little bit more. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm more of a natural looking, I like my edits looking more natural than not natural. Let's see there. Some people with Twilight photos will make their pictures look really out there, but that looks pretty good to me. Let me copy this. This might have been, these might be ones where it only took 2 exposures. Now this one, let's see, let's do the vertical. You can see how that line's kind of crooked. Let's get rid of this brush tool menu. Go down to transform, then we're gonna do the vertical. Just straighten that up a little bit, and then crop it in a little. There we go. That looks pretty good. If anything, it looks a little crooked still. Let me bring it up. All right, we're not in the white. All right, that looks good to me. All right, let's keep going. Now this one, we're back to 3 exposures. You can see how much brighter that one is with those previous settings. All right, that looks pretty good right there. Pretty natural. That one brighter as well. I don't see much difference between the 2 and the 3 exposures. I mean, we could bring a little, give a little more focus on the house, just brighten it up. Let's go back to the other one as well. Do a little bit. And then maybe that one brightened it up a little too much, so then the overall picture will bring down. All right, that's pretty good. And then this one we'll do, let's see what paste does. Not too bad. Bring down the highlights because we couldn't really see the detail there. Now it's looking really yellow. So let's bring down the temperature. Not too much because you can see how the blue, so we have like tungsten lights in here, and then we have just natural lighting out here, which is causing blue. So we can keep the temperature warmer, which is probably what we'll do. And then we can just desaturate the yellows a little bit if we wanted to just reduce that a little bit. Or you could go down lower and then reduce the blues a little bit. There's a couple options for you there. All right, this is definitely a 2 exposure. We'll start with profile straight auto. We'll just bring it up. This actually looks pretty good. It's darker, and I think I'm gonna bring, so either we can saturate this sky a little bit, make it darker like that, or we can bring down the luminance. We'll see what the difference is here. All right. I think I like the saturation slightly better. It's a little different of a blue tint. There we go. All right, let's copy that, paste here. Now we're back to 3 exposures. We'll bring it down. All right, now let's copy this and go on. Now bring up the exposure a little bit. Actually, maybe make it a little warmer. It's pretty dark on the house, so I'm gonna just do a quick exposure brush just to, that looks pretty good. Out here, let me hit done real quick. You hit done if you wanna do something else without changing that as well. And I'll go to temp. It looks kind of cold out here in these rocks, so I'm just gonna warm those up a little bit. All right, that's good. I'm gonna copy, make sure those local adjustments are not selected. And honestly, these are some pretty similar shots. We're getting something different out of it, so I actually like it. Let's see here. We'll keep it. And then just, we'll do exposure, brighten up the house a little bit here. Maybe saturate the sky a little bit. And then over here it's looking kind of cold. So we'll select we'll do a temperature brush here, temp, and then just paint in here. All right, that looks a little better. All right, that's good. Let's copy, paste onto the next. Now in here, this is where those yellow lights are really looking kind of distracting. What I'm gonna choose to do is just desaturate a little bit of the yellows and oranges. Not too much. All right, that looks okay. Probably get rid of some of these. I'll just get rid of this one. There's really not too much difference in the view there. So let's start with profile straight auto. Not liking that photo much. And let's do the same thing here. Same with this one. We got a lot of the same looking shots here. I feel like I already have a shot of that that's decent, so I'm gonna get rid of it. Don't need to deliver a lot of the same looking. I just don't like how that one turned out. All right, so now we're back out front, a little darker of a setting. Let's do profile straight auto. And I'll bring up exposure a little bit. It's a little bit cold in here on the house, so let's do the brush. So we can do the temperature brush just to warm it up in this area here. We can even do it more. And then let's do a little saturation in the sky. Make it a little bit darker looking. And then lastly, we'll do an exposure brush here on the house just to give it a little bit more focus on the house. I like that. And now these ones are pretty much in the same position, so we could actually copy our local adjustments and see how they paste on the next house. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'll bring up the exposure just a little bit overall, but I like it. Let's paste it here. Not such a big fan on this one. Let's do profile straight auto and bring up the exposure. Bring down the white balance. I'm gonna use should we bring down shadows? All right, so we'll saturate the sky a little bit more. And then, I mean, right here it looks pretty warm already. I'm gonna use the temperature brush just over here in the grass area. All right, let's copy. I'm gonna check off the local adjustments. All right, let's paste here. So this is another straight on shot, kind of looking up. If you want to straighten that line, we can go to transform vertical and just bring it down a little bit. And then crop it in. That actually looks pretty good to me. And that's the end of our edits. So I'm gonna go back to library and rearrange. First I'm gonna zoom out and just kind of get them all in a glance and just see if any of them stick out. They all look pretty consistent, and I'm not seeing anything that really jumps out that says the white balance is way off in this one. We do have these two, so we have sky here. We do have these two right here. We have just a subtle sky in the rest of these, so to make it, let's see if we can just add a little bit of a gradient blue just to kind of match the other ones. We could do a sky replacement, but if we did, we probably would do it on the full set of them. So let's just bring down that temperature a bit. All right, and that adds, you can see in the preview, just added a little bit to the sky. Use this temperature. In this one, there's really not much there, but it does add a little bit of color. So that's one way to do it. Let me zoom in a little bit just to see. I mean, these really aren't necessarily the money shots of the house, but yeah. I mean, it looks pretty consistent. I'm just contemplating adding, doing sky replacement on it. I think it's all right without it. All right, so let's go and we'll put the best Twilight photos first. And I'm looking at these. We had these earlier ones, and then we had these darker ones. I actually like the darker a little bit later in the evening. So I'm gonna put those first. And then from there, we're gonna do, where's that entry shot? Here it is. So we'll do the entry shot. And I think we did do a closer shot, I thought, during Twilight. Maybe we didn't. All right, that's all right. So from here, we're gonna do all the interior shots. And now we got the entryway. Now we were waiting for fans to slow down, so we started with the secondary room. So I'm gonna move these ones to right before the laundry room after the master. So we got the entry, and I did take that picture right here. So we'll do that one at the beginning, right? So what it looks like as you walk in, what it looks like back at the front door. Then we're going into the main area. Then we're going into the kitchen. And then we're going down the hallway, heading into the master. From the master, we got those secondary bedrooms and bathroom, laundry room, garage. Then we're heading outside. What we're gonna do outside is gonna be the Twilight. The Twilight exteriors next. And from there, we'll do the bonus. I consider these daytime photos more bonus for these Twilight photos. And that's one reason. Like, if I felt like these backyard shots were all the money shots, I would have done sky replacements on them. But I think the Twilight ones turned out pretty dang good. Now, I'm not going to deliver. I might deliver some of these wider shots. They're a little bit different than the outside Twilight ones that we have. So those ones are all focused on the house. So we got the cul-de-sac here a little bit further out. I'm not going to deliver this one. Yeah, I think this one looks pretty similar. Actually, these last three, it looks like it. Let's hit Command, hit B. So we got these wider shots that we just added at the. So I like to deliver, all right, the best front shots, then all the interior shots, then the best outside shots, and then we'll reset. Okay, now we're back to the daytime. These are kind of bonus shots. If you want to use them, they're right there for you. And then we got the entryway, we got that extra shot through the windows and some of the backyard shots during the day, and then a few additional twilights that maybe weren't the ones that you want to showcase of the house right up front, but they're still pretty good. So we'll go ahead and deliver it. So that's a total of 62 photos, which I feel is pretty good for this home. Now let's go ahead and export them. And we'll select, here we'll just do a new folder and we'll call it finished. And choose, no subfolder. This one was Gold Canyon. And then we'll leave our resize to long edge at 2048, 80% quality. Export, and all these images should be around 1 megabyte. So anyways, that's gonna do it for this editing session of these Twilight photos. If you guys had any additional questions, feel free to reach out. We'll see you guys on the next one.